Hello, this is James. Amazoness Princess has finally returned from running along the trees in the far reaches of the forest to play with her pet cats, get to know the troops, and eventually assume the mantle of leadership. This card is super great. You can think of it as a Beta the Electromagnet Warrior, but for Amazonesses, and we get to have 3 of her. Okay, so her effect is, this card name becomes Amazoness Queen while this card is on the field or in the graveyard. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add 1 Amazoness spell trap from your deck to your hand. That's usually going to be your Onslaught. And when this card declares an attack, you can send 1 other card from your hand or field to your graveyard, special summon 1 Amazoness monster from your deck in defense position, except Amazoness Princess. So so it makes the deck super consistent. Since we have 3 Princess and 3 Onslaught, we're almost always going to have Onslaught. And when she attacks, you get to trade a card from your hand or your field, so it could be a card that you've already gotten value out of, and bring out an Amazoness monster that you need. And a lot of times you're going to want to pick Queen, because I always want to pick Queen. But what that relationship does is it makes Amazoness Princess indestructible. So if you you normal summon her, you set Amazoness Onslaught on the following turn. She declares, this is turn 1, and then on turn 3 she declares an attack, and then you send another card to the graveyard and you pull out your Queen, and then Amazoness Princess is able to crash into a Destiny Hero Celestial, not be destroyed, and get the banish, which is just fantastic. So the reason that Amazonesses are great, again, is not because they are sexy, bold warrior ladies. It's because of their flexibility and also this continuous banish effect, which is just silly. And it's fantastic that Konami made this only a rare and not another super rare. So Amazonesses have this wonderful toolbox of all kinds of neat monsters that we can choose from, and they're tied together with Amazoness Ambush. For the current meta, the current flow of other decks, I think that this is a good lineup of monsters. So obviously we're going to have 3 Princess, we're going to have 1 Queen, that's pretty much universal. 3 Swordswoman. This is Swordswoman is your worker bee. She, besides Princess, this is going to be your most useful Amazoness, because she protects your life points, which we definitely need because we're using Restart instead of Holy Guard. So when I was using the Amazoness deck using the Holy Guard skill, we didn't have Princess, and it didn't make a lot of sense to try and restart for Amazoness Onslaught. But now that we do have Princess, so basically we have 6 chances to get an Onslaught. That's basically what having Princess means. So it makes sense to try and restart for either Princess or Ambush. So Amazoness Swordswoman, very important for dealing damage, especially because Queen is generally going to be summoned in defense position by the effect of Princess. And then so these 7 monsters, this is your standard Amazoness monsters, your standard Amazoness monster lineup. And then for the other 3, I generally like to have 10 monsters and 10 traps, 10 spell traps. We are like tech spots, so you could use where are they? You could use that. You could use the scouts. If you're seeing a lot of sea stealth, scouts will protect your Amazoness monsters against the sea stealth effect, and then that way they can get the banish on the whale, which is very powerful. And then where is it? Spy. Amazoness Spy. She can give you some good revival. So But this is actually a really good. This is like the highest Tal of the Amazoness. Well, first of all, you can special summon her, so you can get 2 Amazoness out on turn 1. So that's 2 banishes. But you can crash her. You can get the banish, and then when she's destroyed by battle, you can target an Amazoness monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand, and then you can then special summon it using Amazoness Onslaught, getting like a 3rd or perhaps even 4th attack off, which is craziness. But for the current setup of what we're dealing with, which is like Sylvans and Cyber Angels and Masked Heroes and Spellbooks, we're not going to be using. So again, Amazoness Scouts is a tech against Sea Stealth. Amazoness Spy is just a good card for recycling Amazonesses out of the graveyard. But since we're in kind of a banish meta, we only have 1 Amazoness Sage because there's still a lot of Archfiends, and an Amazoness Tiger to protect Princess. That's Tiger Raja, as Rajas do. They protect the Princess. So you have your Princess out. You always lead Princess if you have her, and then you set your Amazoness Ambush. And then if your opponent goes to attack Princess on their turn, so it's turn 1 Princess and Ambush, and then your opponent attacks on turn 2, and then you can use Ambush's effect to special summon Raja, and Raja is going to be massive. He'll be 1100 plus 400 plus 400, so 1900 plus 500 for the special summon. So they'll be forced to attack into your giant tiger, and only 1 baby tiger, because we're not relying, since we now have the consistency of the ambush card. We don't have to rely on econ takes as much, which is better because we're actually building infrastructure rather than just hoping that the opponent doesn't have their own enemy controller or Karibo or Windstorm or Curse of Anubis. So that's our monster lineup, our 7 standard monsters, and then 3 tech monsters, and then you can rotate these 3 guys out to fit what you are currently seeing. Any Amazoness deck is always going to have 3 Onslaught. I considered, since we have three princesses, we would only maybe need 2 Onslaught, because we could always search it, and then we would have 5, and we would have an extra slot. But you always want to start with Onslaught / Ambush, if at all possible. And then only 1 Amazoness Willpower, because we're not really in a killing and sending to the grave meta anymore. Between Amazoness and Spellbooks, I think those are going to be like the 2 dominant decks going forward. It's banishing. Amazoness is banished, the Mirror Match banishes, and then Spellbooks, the Spellbook of Fate, that's the banish card. Basically, the way Spellbooks play is blah blah blah, get Spellbooks into the graveyard, and then banish, and then if there's leftover resources, special summon really high level spellcasters. Okay, so because when I was originally building this deck, the flaw I ran into was I was using all Amazoness monsters. So I had 3 enemy controllers, and then like 3 willpower, and then 3 onslaught, and then I only had 1 extra tech spot for my spell traps. But it's not the month of April anymore. People are wise to Amazonesses, so you definitely need some mix-up cards for the latter. The ones that I'm going with are Parallel Twister. Parallel Twister, you can just send one of your extra spell traps to the graveyard and then pick an opponent's card and destroy it. It's very flexible, very strong. We're still seeing a lot of Sylvans, so Forbidden Chalice. 2 enemy controllers, and this is for free-to-play decks. Love enemy controller. We got to steal those pay-to-win cards. and Cyber Angels. That's going to be your main weapon against Cyber Angels. 1 Paleozoic Canadia. If you have a Floodgate, that's much the same thing. This guy, I really like him against Sylvans, because as soon as the Guardiope gets tribute summoned, not summoned with Rose Lover, but as soon as Guardiope gets tribute summoned, you can just snap him down into defense position and then banish him on your turn. And this is a holdover from my King of Games deck. And then 1 Wall of Disruption. People aren't as paranoid of Wall of Disruption anymore, but they are very paranoid about your Amazoness Ambush. So even if your ambush gets cycloned or otherwise taken out of the game, you still have a strong back row card that can, if you can't banish your opponent's monsters, then maybe you can simply destroy them. And then, okay, so let's talk about matchups for a little bit. Alright, so first is Masked Heroes. Masked Heroes are bye-bye. If your opponent opens Amazing and they have 2 Mask Change and they can get out like 3 Yankees, then yes, they're gonna win on turn 2. But since Anki needs to destroy, when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can pick up a Mask Change. Since that Anki needs to destroy that monster, that doesn't happen. That no longer happens because we have such good consistency in getting Amazoness Ambush. Next is Cyber Angels. We have enemy controller for that, and also the Banish. The Banish game is very strong against Cyber Angels, especially if you have your Swordswoman out and she can give them some damage for their trouble. And Archfiend Emperor, First Lord of Horror, Archfiend decks, that's what we have Sage for. Sage is going to get in there and destroy that Archfiend infrastructure once her more bold sister has cleared the path, with a banish, of course. Pretty much, yeah, a lot of popular, powerful decks Amazonesses are actually strong against. Some of their bad matchup, and then Sylvans. I like Amazonesses a lot against Sylvans because you can banish the Carrot Lover, you can banish the Rose Lover, and then even though you're not as big as Guardiope, you can banish the Guardiope, and then actually Amazoness Queen, she wins ties against Guardiope because she can't be destroyed by battle, but he can, and they both have the same amount of attack points. Cards you have to look out for are stuff like Needle Sealing, and you don't see this as much anymore, but Super Rush, Headlong. And then, okay, so the only real bad matchups are stuff that prevents your Amazonesses from attacking. So the player, it's a burn deck, they have no monsters to banish, they're just massive morphing your Amazonesses and then hitting them with Lava Golem. And then, but burn decks are kind of swallowed up by Sylvans. What really sucks for Amazonesses is Gear Gears. So Gear Gears, even if you get out your ambush, it doesn't count if you can't touch the Gear monsters, and even if you're able to bait out a Pulse Mines, you know, they still have their flip cards. They can still flip up all of their anchor gears in order to clear your field. But that's the only really bad matchup for Amazonesses. And then your 50-50 matchups are some instances of Sylvans, but more that, and then also Sea Stealth Attack. If you don't have scouts and your opponent establishes the full Sea Stealth Attack board, then you might as well scoop. But I don't see Sea Stealth so much anymore. It went down the Sylvan's Gullet down with Burn, so kind of hope that Sylvans stick around for a little while longer. But what we definitely want to watch out for is, right, the two new decks are Amazonesses and Spellbooks. So like I said, Spellbooks are blah blah blah, get a bunch of spells into the graveyard, and then use Spellbook of Fate. Where are you? Spellbook of Fate, and then get the Banish. And the way that you're going to want to play around Spellbook of Fate is you're going to want to try and trick the opponent. You're going to want to use all of your princess mind games in order to get them to banish the wrong thing, or try and draw into 2 onslaughts, which with 3 princesses and restart is extremely possible. So you want to get them to either, if you have an onslaught and then another back row, you want them to banish the other back row. And then if you have 2 onslaughts, you're golden. And then you can play around with setting a card and then playing a princess. And no, don't do that. If you're playing against Spellbooks, definitely don't set a card first. You play your princess, you pick up your ambush, and then try to feel out which if your opponent is like a center banisher or a right hand banisher, and play around with that. But it's not it's annoying because your beautiful warrior princesses are being tricked by vile magicians. But Spellbook of Fate is only once per turn, so that matchup is very winnable, even though you have to sit through like a 10-minute long turn while they get all their stuff. And then so before we get into our replays, I said it before and I was right. Konami gave us a card that screws around with the extra deck. So for my bluffing extra deck, there's nothing. Spicy Spy gets nothing. Spicy Spy, if this card is normal summon, look at 1 random card in your opponent's extra deck, and if it has 2,000 or more attack, the card gains 1,000 attack. If it has 2,000 or less attack, you gain LP equal to that monster's attack. These are all 0. These are all 0 attack point monsters. Not a huge consideration, because I'm not certain what Spicy Spy is going to be running, if any. But know that if you're running your deck that doesn't use Anki with show-off Ankis and Slash Dragons in your extra deck, because you're a cool kid, eventually the algorithm is going to match you up with a Spicy Spy, and you will be punished. Okay, let us see our replays, and this deck is very effective. I'm already Legend rank 2. Check it out. Yeah, good record. Okay. Do replays. And one more thing. The reason we have Amazon's Willpower so we only have 1 revival card because we're in a banish meta, not a graveyard meta. And then Willpower is searchable. That's the great strength of Amazon's Princess, is that she's giving you a lot of cards that you don't have to draw. You can just pull them out of the deck, and you can pick the ones that you pull out of the deck. Okay, so we're facing a Yami Yugi, and we're going first. And I'm using, and it's balanced, so it could be anything. I'm using Jessie for my restart character because people don't have a lot of feelings about Jessie. He hasn't been around a long time. Like, for example, way back when, if you were playing Crowler, people just assumed it was Ancient Years, and then so you were able to get some like micro benefits off of that. So here I'm pretending in their minds to be a Sylvan's player, except when I'm opening with Amazon's Princess. So Amazon's Princess searches the ambush, and then I'm thinking whatever they are, they're gonna go for the right card. So we set an ambush, and we set an enemy controller. And okay, so here's a Destiny Heroes deck. We love Destiny Heroes deck. Not just because of the banish preventing destruction by battle, but also because Amazoness Swordswoman has 1600 defense points, exactly the right amount to stop Destiny Heroes right in their tracks. Look at that, 1600 and 1600. But we don't have Swordswoman out. We have Princess, so we're gonna pop Ambush, we're gonna special summon Raja, and that's gonna kill the opponent's turn right in his tracks because he has to attack Raja, and that would cause destruction. I wouldn't even lose my monster. His monsters would just get banished. So Raja is gonna go to work, and then so he served his purpose, and then once he attacks, we declare an attack with Amazoness Princess, and then swap Raja out for the Queen. And then Queen prevents my Princess from being destroyed by battle. And then we're also going to special summon Swordswoman with the effect of Amazoness Ambush. True ambush, and he scoops. Because with the Onslaught out, he didn't have his Cosmic Cyclone. And he couldn't get the Anki destruction. Even if he had a monster, even if he had another mask change, Anki breaks on the rocks of the Amazoness Ambush. Okay, so here we're playing against Oozy Duck. Okay, this is a mirror match. So the mirror match is won by if you can get the most number of attacks, or if you can save the most number of monsters. Okay, so we're not going to restart because we start with Ambush and a Princess, which means we're going to have 2 ambushes, which is always good because everyone's wise to the Amazoness Banished game now. So we're going to set both ambushes and end our turn. It's mirror. So her Princess gives her ambush with her scouts and her army. She attacks into my Princess so that she can get her effect. So she's trying to search her Queen. But I'm going to get the banish, and I'm going to special summon with ambush. I'm going to special summon my Queen in defense position. And also, that's also going to give us Baby Tiger from the hand. So with the Amazoness mirror match, and she also gets her own Baby Tiger. You wanna get as many monsters out as possible. So we had, it's actually kind of weird. We have like a mirrored board. So we are going to put the banish on the Baby Tiger, and then here's why you need the most number of attacks and or monsters, because everybody's just gonna banish everybody. Okay, so we attack again with Princess, and we're going to dump one of our extra ambushes because I figure this deck doesn't run any back row removal. Alright, we're gonna dump one of our extra ambushes for a big Raja, and we're gonna banish her Queen, and her Queen is gonna banish our precious Princess. But with the effective Onslaught, we can push out a Sage, and Sage is going to destroy that back row, and we don't even need to attack with Queen. The opponent surrenders. Okay, so this fight is against Burger King. Burger King. So this is what I'm talking about with just like the subconscious expectation. I always think Gears. Even though that's not right, even though Bandit Keith has restarted to be anything, I just associate Bandit Keith with Gears. Just like probably tons and tons of people, especially after the last KC Cup, associate Jesse with Sylvans. So when I try to do the classic Amazoness play from last year's King of Games, the face down Baby Tiger with the ambush, the T set, scares a lot of people off. And then after I flip and do my banishing, then they feel very silly. Alright, so but it's not machines. It's spellbooks. So here's blah blah blah. Let me get Spellbook of Fate. So Spellbook of Secrets lets him pick from the hand. Spellbook of Master copies. He picks a Fate, and then he plays a Power onto his Fool. But that's only so that he can get a third Spellbook into the grave. And now Fate, this is Fate, is ready to go. So we're just we can't play around it. We just need to outswarm. That's the Amazonis code, is just swarming, getting all of my monsters out onto the field. And she's going to give us our ambush, and then she's going to get banished herself. So he's going to banish those 3 cards, and then here we're going to set. It's very important that you trick the Spellbook player into banishing the wrong thing, and it helps if you have backup. So Spellbook of Secrets lets him pick from the deck. He picks Master, the copy card. Fool of Prophecy is going to mill out another Spellbook, and then the second Fool is going to mill out his second Spellbook, and then somehow he reads the Wall of Disruption. Whenever I have Wall of Disruption, people are just psychically aware of it, so he doesn't attack. Probably because he wants to wait to start clearing my back row. He knows that my Amazonis monsters are almost universally weaker than 1600 attack points, so he wants to wait for me to reveal my onslaught, and it's not a psychic knowledge of Wall of Disruption. And then so we're just going to go ahead and pop both onslaughts. We're going to normal summon our Amazonis Swordswoman, and then we're going to Amazonis Onslaught is not once per turn. If you have 2, you can do 2. Is not the effect of can only be activated once per turn. If you have 2, you can do 2. So with that 500 point boost, we are going to destroy and banish both of his fools. How very foolish of him. And if he had a back row, Sage would destroy it. Alright, so Spellbook of Eternity, that's the one that picks from the banish pile. He's going to pick one of his banished Spellbook of Secrets. Alright, so that's what you want to do with Spellbooks, is you pick with your secrets, and then you banish the cards that you want to reuse, and then you reuse them with Eternity. Secrets, now again, secrets can search any Spellbook card, so Spellbook Magician counts. And then he normal summons Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, and then there's his Fate, and he has more than enough fuel for his Fate card, and then he's going to activate Spellbook of the Master. That requires him to reveal a Spellbook. So he reveals Fate, and then he copies. Now I'm not certain what. I think. Oh, I see. He copied Eternity, and then the copied Eternity targeted the Spellbook of Power, and then he was able to add Spellbook of Power from his hand back to the deck, from the banished pile back to his hand. That's pretty advanced, but I guess he decided he didn't have anything. Yeah, because again, if you can outswarm the banish, then that's the key to winning against Spellbooks. If you can get your full board, because they can only pick one to banish. It's very expensive for them. So if you have way more monsters, then that's gonna work nicely. All right, a second battle against Bandit Keith. I think this might actually be the same guy. Or maybe not. Okay. Bandit Keith versus Jesse Anderson. We're going second. Which, actually, I think that leading Princess, you actually want to go first. Okay, so this is Spellbooks again. This time he gets the mill. and he's gonna go Secrets and then Spellbook of Life. Secrets picks from the deck. Spellbook of Life has this like revival effect, and then he's gonna go Master, and Master is gonna copy. Oh no, he's revealing it. Anyway, so Master is gonna copy Secrets, and then but the important piece is that Life revives a Dark Magician of Chaos. And this is etc. etc. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, after damage calculation, banish that opponent's monster. So he's like a walking ambush. And then normal special summoned. You can grab a spell card in your graveyard. So he grabs Tribute to the Doom. Alright, it's our turn. Turn number 2. We're going to go Princess, and Princess is instantly going to get banished by the Spellbook of Fate because she's just such a powerful card. If he let me get my attack off, I would have done the thing with Amazoness Queen again, and he knows that. So he's going to banish, but we're going to chain Baby Tiger because against Spellbooks, we need to swarm the field. And here we get our second ambush, which is very fortunate. So we're very strong against Fate. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so he goes Master again, reveals his Spellbook card, in this case the Blue Boy, and he copies Spellbook of Secrets, and that lets him pick another Fate from the deck. But remember, we have 2 ambush, and we have our monsters, so that one Fate, that once per turn Fate, not an issue. And please be aware, Spellbook of the Master copies normal spells, not quick play spells. He normal summons his Blue Boy, and then Blue Boy gives him Spellbook of Power, and he goes ahead, and so he's going to banish. I think no. Won't banish one card. It's when the chain resolves that you're able to pick what gets banished. But fortunately, we have a second Amazoness Ambush, so no matter what he picks, we get our banish. And just in case he's hiding his third Spellbook of Fate, we're gonna hurry up and special summon our Sage in defense position. Blue Boy gets banished. But since Blue Boy did technically destroy a monster, he gets to add Spellbook of Power to his hand. And then he does not attack with the Dark Magician of Chaos because he would get banished. But here, oh, the Amazoness Classic, the Baby Tiger right in the face, getting the banish. Clears his field, and we're just going to get even more damage. But it's just 100 off. Now, he's going to have a time limit loss, but let's look at his options. So he goes Fool, and then Fool mills out one of the spellbooks that you don't actually want to play, just one that you want to use as spellbook fuel. And then he sets his card, or no, he plays Spellbook of Secrets and pulls a Fate. And then clearly, alright, so he banishes. Alright, he goes for the banish onto the ambush, of course, but then there's a time limit loss. But I believe that would have been a win for me because he's stuck. So that's the third Fate. He's not able to search anymore, and his options for attacking are attacking into the Swordswoman and getting 100 damage, or attacking and he doesn't even have that option because Raja is there blocking. So I'm gonna count that one as a good and proper win. But besides, if you can't win with your deck in the time limit, maybe play a deck with some balls. Alright, and here's our final replay. Jesse Anderson versus Jesse Anderson. Sanosu. Okay, we're going second again. And it's Grit. It's Grit Sylvans. Yup. Alright, so we open 2 Ambush, 1 Princess, and 1 Swordswoman. The Banish is happening. Oh, and there's our 3rd Ambush. That's actually not great. So we are going to normal summon our Princess, and that's going to pull Willpower. We're going to set, and then Princess, discard our 3rd Ambush, and get out our Queen. And this is a Rose Lover. Now you always want to wait to banish. You always feel like you want to wait to banish the Rose Lover, but if you do that, then they can just tribute off the Rose Lover and then special summon with her from the graveyard. So you never want to do that. And then, very unexpected, Snipe Hunter. The Snipe Baby is going to take aim, and this guy's really good. Like he knew that both of them were in the corner. So he picks one, gets the 4, gets the hit. He picks this one and then rolls a 6 and misses. And then now he's going to get a special summon. There's the Hermitry. It is not a Martial Leaf, like it should not be, off of only 1. It's a Guardioak. Recycles a Martial Leaf. This time Snipe Baby gets the hit. So discarding that ambush now seems impetuous and foolish. And then, but my man is not reading properly. So he attacks into the Queen and the Princess, and we only take 300 life points damage because of the effect of Queen. So now it is our turn. We have the initiative, and we don't have Banish, but we don't need Banish because we have Parallel Twister. We are going to Parallel Twister our final remaining trap card, and attack, and attack. And what can he do? What can he do in the face of my lovely Amazonesses? He can go for a last-ditch Sylvan Martial Leaf. Oh, also, double trap, Treacherous Trap Hole. That Needle Ceiling and Wall of the D. That's what you need to look out for when you're playing Amazonesses. So, I'm very excited to welcome Amazonas Princess to the world of Duel Links. Thank you for watching.